Good afternoon. It is July 24th, Wednesday, 2019. This is the next edition of the Torturers Rehabilitation Report. And this is going to be primarily a progress report. About 1 week ago to the day, I believe, I started these reports. And since then, I don't think there have been anybody paying to come in and molest and assault me with the electrochemical weapons shot at me from below the floor of my apartment in the underground rooms beneath. And so that's really good news. There's been a flipping of pretty much all the younger youths who had been a part of this cabal that I have gathered are torturing so that they can have a safe roof over their head and food to eat. And there's just a few holdouts in the afternoon shift that I can still see they're like edgers. And then there's the handful of bosses. I speculate there's about 4 or 5 of them, which are the narcissists that are just maniacally committed to continue to try to control and oppress me with these evil weapons. And then just from hearing voices coming from different directions below the house, and some are closer in, some are deeper down. I've come to learn that there's different levels underground of passages and rooms, and so in amongst those other rooms are just sort of neighbors that aren't really a part of this project. And it's my understanding from what I heard this morning, I heard everybody on this floor is against you and wants you to go. And I even heard them saying, get out of here and get out of town. So that's very exciting. And then I hear the voices of the young ones, even though I'm telling them, don't get into the middle of this. If you can possibly get to a safer, better situation, don't try to rescue me. But they're still trying. And I just hear all day that they're just right on top of these narcissist bosses, trying to harangue them and pressure them out of this mission. And from the Edger boys this afternoon, I heard something interesting. I heard them say, she can't love us, we're not in a relationship. And to them, I just want to say, I think that there's a code of honor if you want to consider yourself a teacher, that anyone who does and sort of quote unquote signs up for this role should hold love in their hearts for the humanity of all of their students, whether they know them or not. And that is what their mission is, to bring that out in whatever school of learning that they occupy. And so what else on this topic? So this is a huge route. And, essentially, other than the use of weapons, I and my allies, which are just about everybody except for these 4 holdouts, have taken control of the situation. And, whenever an abuser feels that he or they are losing control of a situation and they're losing power, they will escalate. And then at that point for the victim, it can go either way. They either get driven out, self-destruct, or they kill the victim. But at this moment, together in cooperation with the people below boards with me, hearing them and them tuning into these reports, my humanity has been restored. And that's really important because there's no more sounds of people getting any pleasure out of torturing me. And in fact, in the morning shift, I heard one of the youths say, I am, what exactly did he say? I am so sick and tired of hurting her. So what's happening now is whoever's left torturing me, who's not the heinous four, is really miserable. And here I am, if I, other than the physical pain, and I was locked pretty much in a fetal position until 3:30 p.m. on my air mattress today, because of, as I mentioned, the final escalation, as the narcissists feel their power slipping away. But I'm remarkably in good spirits, and just thrilled that in the course of 1 week of me doing these reports, and I think the time was just right. I think this has been building for a long time. As I hold up, people see me less as an object to assault, and sees me as heroic and quite clever in the way that I've been able to just sort of hold my ground in the siege and win hearts and minds. And I did hear just before I started this, I've been hearing the mutterings in the past few days. How has she been able to do this? And then once again, I heard somebody just below a little while ago say the butterfly effect. And I've mentioned the butterfly effect before, which is in a caterpillar, when it's time for it to start the metamorphosis, there are these, just a handful of cells. They're called imaginal cells. And they organize around each other, and they start this catalytic change in the metabolism of the caterpillar. And pretty soon, it just takes off. And it's this explosion of metamorphosis that changes the caterpillar into the chrysalis, and then the caterpillar completely melts down within and reforms as the butterfly breaks out. And so that term has been adopted for social evolution of this nature. And through these lectures and through what I've had to endure, I've been talking evolution for, well, pretty much since 2008, and it's been happening, in the greater world. But I was able to, with the help of my allies below boards, do a really precise microcosm of just seeing how this can happen. If you just appeal to the humanity of the people around you, they reflect humanity back at you. And so, it's really hard to torture somebody when you can no longer objectify them as a thing. And they've irrefutably reclaimed their personal sovereignty and their personhood. And so I even heard a phrase today. I think I heard them say this. There's the torture within and the torture without. And now, I'm still enduring the torture without, but I'm, quite peaceful and feeling re-empowered. And all those that are still committed, whether it's the narcissist maniacally or their indentured servants, everybody's pretty miserable. And I even heard, one of the young ones, one of my loyalists, one of the most loyal to me now, just say, all you've done is make everybody miserable, and given her a microphone. So that's really profound. And, for those who are holding out, and I know I heard them say at some point when there was it sounded like from the lower floor, the entire lower floor below this immediate floor got together and did an intervention on one of the baddies, they were trying to ride him out of town. And whoops, there went that thought right out the window. Oh, well, maybe it'll fly back in. But just to revisit that, though, that was such a remarkable moment for me when I heard them saying that, the whole floor is united against you, and you have to go. Really, really great stuff. And so I just want to hit once again on something I've mentioned briefly before, which is something I learned from Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, who was the chief of staff of General Colin Powell. And he talks about, in this age of drone warfare, that so often our military so completely outclasses and dominates with this drone technology that there's just absolutely no ability of the quote unquote enemy forces to retaliate. And so I assume it's like shooting fish in a barrel, kind of like my situation, except overseas and shooting people in other nations. And he says they come back with post-traumatic stress syndrome, and they're pretty messed up, and it takes them a long time to recover, if ever. And he calls it a violation of the warrior ethos. And it sort of is related to how Robert Bly talks about different archetypes of the warrior and the king and so forth. And that there's just something, woven into our very being of, heart, mind, and soul, that you're sort of breaking a code of honor when you unfairly declare war against another party that way, who simply can't retaliate. And you may be wounding and murdering them, but you're also psychologically wounding yourselves. So I hope those who are holding out. I know. I remember what I was what I was going to say now. When they were all united, and it really sounded like they were kicking that boss out. The young ones in the immediate space underneath this house, I heard one of them say, "Oh no, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go?" And so that's really unfortunate. If the reason they're continuing to torture me is that they don't want to go hungry and homeless. That's really tragic. But there's got to be a way, and they've got to start thinking of a plan B, because we're too united now. And one way, if it ends with them inadvertently killing me, they're going to be scarred for life. So it would be in their interest to get out of this very traumatic situation for them, mind, body, and soul, and start over somewhere else. Let's shut this down, people. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I cannot thank you enough. You guys are awesome, who are helping to free me. Okay. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Bye-bye.